and welcome to Wildly Curious, where the questions are unhinged, the science is real, and honestly, we're just getting started. I'm Laura.
And I'm Katy. And...
Ever wonder why a bat might glow? Or how frogs made it to space long ago? Dinosaurs trained for delivery runs. We're asking the questions, the weird ones. Wildly curious, where science gets strange and kinda hilarious. For nature's wonders to ancient funk, it's facts and fun rolled into one big chunk. Wildly curious, weird is wonderful. Come join the fuss.
we're talking turkeys and pumpkins because this week is Thanksgiving, folks.
Hooray! At least for us Americans.
Yeah. Everybody else, now just be entertained with our, another week.
Traditional American
another
foods.
Week for you all. Okay, so Laura and I, we divided up this episode. Laura's going to talk about pumpkins. I'm going to talk about turkeys. But we're gonna divide it to talk about alive and dead, or how we use them afterwards.
Right.
So, Laura, do you want to go first on the living? So we'll talk about living first,
pumpkins?
I guess.
Okay.
Living pumpkins, yes.
Okay.
As opposed to those dead ones.
Really quick, I just found this good quote that I thought that we should start this with when I was doing my research. And these people, wherever I found this, I'm so sorry, I can't even remember. But it says so Abraham Lincoln made Thanksgiving a national holiday in 1863. And I didn't know that at the time the Confederacy saw it as a way to push the Yankee agenda. I'm not joking. And because some editorialist in Virginia said that gave an explanation of a Yankee Thanksgiving. He said, "This is an annual custom of that people heretofore celebrated with devout oblations to themselves of pumpkin pie and roast turkey." So,
how dare they?
From two Yankees, we're going to talk about pumpkin pie and roast turkey.
Yeah, you want to be like, you guys all realize you're white, right? And like, you came here. This isn't even your land. Come on, guys. So pumpkins. Pumpkin pie is, we're going to talk about that part later. But first, the living pumpkin. Okay.
And we just had
I'm
Halloween.
not a fan of pumpkin. I'm not one of those people who can do pumpkin.
I can do pumpkin almost everything except for pumpkin pie. I don't like the consistency.
I watched my roommate in college. She was determined. She was like, I'm going to eat a whole pumpkin pie. She almost threw up. She couldn't eat a whole pumpkin pie.
No, that's too much.
Right?
Okay, so pumpkin is sort of a catch-all term, which I never thought about, but yeah, totally. People are just like, oh, look, it's a pumpkin, but they look very different from each other. There's lots of varieties of this. It's really it's a shape of any gourd that people have bred, which does not sound right, but we mean breeding gourd to gourd.
Although I can guarantee
100%. The innards of that pumpkin. So the word pumpkin was first used as a word in 1647 when referring to food of poor settlers in the New World. People were like, those poor suckers over there eating pumpkins.
And pumpkins, yeah. What an insult. You pumpkin eaters.
Yeah, geez. But where do pumpkins come from and why are they so popular today? Well, all plants have clues to their evolutionary history, like plants with flowers and seeds evolve alongside the animals that pollinate and disperse them. So this, genus? Yes, genus is the Cucurbita, which is the genus of pumpkin, and it's no exception. It also tells a story of its evolution. So the hard outer texture, the bitter flavor, and the slight toxicity of the OG pumpkin evolved to be eaten and have its seeds spread by really big megafauna back in the Ice Age. So we're imagine mastodons and ground sloths.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they were the only things that could handle that hard outer layer of a pumpkin, just cracking it. We've seen elephants eat pumpkins. You know what I mean?
And it pops it. Yeah.
They were even harder then, and they were bitter and slightly toxic. So it needed a big animal to be able to eat it in order to not kill it.
Yeah.
So they actually found seeds in mastodon poo from 30,000 years ago.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they were like, pumpkins have been around at least since then. But the world changed and humans came into the picture. And I think we've talked about this before about how the Pleistocene extinction is maybe the only human-induced extinction until now. There was some weather stuff happening, but there was also people. And it's pretty direct correlation.
Contributing factor.
Yeah. So all these giant megafauna started dying off. And when they died, species of Cucurbita started going extinct because there was nothing to spread the seeds. Nothing was eating them. And actually, this is where humans stepped in and began domesticating the pumpkin. So yes, we almost killed it off, but then we were like, actually, we should save that thing.
Yeah, forget saving mastodons. Let's save the pumpkin.
Yeah, just a gourd. So humans started to domesticate the pumpkin, and I mean, there's some debate about it, but the genus of plant has been domesticated at least 6 separate times through history. So people were like, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. So we're talking at least 7,500 years ago in Mexico, based on seeds that they have found in civilization, like archaeology stuff. So about 7,500 years ago, which means there could have been a couple thousand years there of extinction happening, right? Like, because, so we started breeding it. And like many indigenous crops, what we have today is not what the original species was like before domestication. So think of corn, right? Like corn was just grass that people were like, these have good seeds. Let's up the seed size.
Yeah, let's up the seeds here. Yeah.
Up the seeds and the sugar content and all of that. And now we have corn, but that's not what maize and things were like originally. Same with pumpkins. So like I had said before, it was a really hard outer shell, bitter and slightly toxic. It's not like that today. Early people probably first started using them because of the really strong outer shell, like I was saying, and they would use them as containers. They were like, I don't have to make one.
Yeah, makes sense.
Just use this.
Yeah.
And
people still do that with, bird's nest gourds and things like that, because they're great for that.
Yeah, they're waterproof and everything. Like, it's just a perfectly made water bottle. Indigenous people also dried out the pulp from the inside to create a fibrous material. So if you've ever scooped out a pumpkin, it's pretty, like, stringy. Okay, so if you dry that, you can then weave that into mats.
I just never thought about that.
Me neither. I would have touched it and been like, no, this is gooey. I wouldn't have thought it would have been, like, dried.
This is icky.
Yeah. Like the dried pumpkin flesh. So the meaty part of the pumpkin can be ground into flour, which I don't know if it actually gives it like a pumpkin flavor, but so those were all the original uses of pumpkin. Like textile, a vessel, and then just flour. Not even actually the pumpkin, because the pumpkin tasted so bad. Whenever they were like, I'm not
finding
this.
Every other use for it. Yeah.
So they started to begin to selectively grow varieties that tasted better, thus changing the wild versions for a tastier domesticated version that was also a lot larger. So again, it's the same where I know we've talked about this before too with like hot peppers, how we've selected them to get larger, but like their original ones were like teeny tiny ones. It's the same with the pumpkin. And I mean, it's really the ideal crop for this time of year because they overwinter really well. They don't rot very easily. Like I have a pumpkin on my porch that I haven't carved and it's still totally fine.
No, yeah, they're perfectly fine.
And every part of the pumpkin can be used or consumed, including its seeds. There's no part of the pumpkin that cannot be used. That's the natural history of the pumpkin. How we almost offed it, but then we saved it and turned it into what it is today.
Almost offed it. Okay, so that's all you had?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is crazy because there's a ton of overlap between pumpkins and turkeys.
I figured because I feel like it's this part of the world. It was a lot changing.
Yeah, but it's like freaky similar. Okay. So, all right. So before turkeys showed up on anyone's dinner table, they were just out in the wild, right? So let's see here. Turkeys go by the scientific name Melagris gallopavo.
Right.
And they're 100% North American originals.
Yeah, same with the pumpkins. Well, they think it's somewhere between North and Central, they think.
Yes.
But it's an American.
American, of the Americas. So North America, it is their home turf. They evolved from there, adapted, and were thriving well long before Americans showed up and was like, this is delicious. In the U.S., we have 5 subspecies. I didn't know that.
I only knew about
5
2.
subspecies of wild turkeys. And if you include the Mexican subspecies that one indigenous peoples first domesticated, that makes 6.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes 6. I had no clue.
Yeah, I didn't know.
So turkeys fall into the bird family Phascidae, I'm assuming, which includes the pheasants, the grouse, and the chickens.
The delicious ones.
So, exactly. So everybody calls them like big chicken. Well, they are. They are essentially big forest chickens. Their closest living relative is the ocellated turkey, which you need to look this up. It legit looks like a peacock turkey. Ocellatted.
Yeah.
But it looks like a peacock turkey.
Cool.
And it's from the Yucatan Peninsula down in Central America. So turkey ancestors started to show up on the fossil records around 23 million years ago. But the modern turkey, the one that we would actually recognize, evolved literally around the same time as the pumpkins were here, right alongside mammoths and giant sloths, which is hilarious to think about. Like,
because they are just little dinosaurs.
Yeah, but it's just crazy because, again, it's like the whole timeline thing that you learn, you put stuff, you start stacking it all together. And I'm like, there were turkey, like, around mammoths.
Well, right,
like, that's just...
Didn't we talk in one episode about how they think that mastodons held on up above Russia into, like, when there were human beings? And we were like,
significantly longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the average size adult for our non-American folks, the average males weigh 11 to 24 pounds in the wild-ish. Females are smaller. Vision, they can nearly see 360 degrees around them. Their color perception is very well off, way better than humans. Their speed, they can burst into flight at 55 miles an hour and run up to 20 miles an hour. So they're definitely not slow. They're just like shaped like they should be slow.
Yeah. They look like they'd be heavy and unwieldy, but they can get off the ground.
Yeah, they definitely can. As everyone knows, like the signature of the males, they gobble. Plus, there's yelps, purrs, clucks, and other sounds used for communication, dominance, courting, the general turkey drama that you see.
Turkey drama.
Well, because, I mean, but their social behavior, too. Like, I know that turkeys, they're one of the few that are, like, because they live in very strict, dominant hierarchies that compared to other birds that are normally just like, oh, it's a flock. They have a structure.
Order. Yeah.
No, literally a pecking order. So turkeys are opportunistic omnivores. They eat seeds, berries, nuts, especially acorns, insects, which is super important, small reptiles, and yes, the occasional frog if they have the chance. Again, opportunistic.
That small dinosaur.
Yeah, right. They're seed dispersers, tick eaters, which is super important, and general like florist cleanup crew that keeps the nutrient cycle going. So they are very, So some more of the history about them, away from the natural history. Turkeys were first domesticated around 800 to 1000 CE in central Mexico by indigenous cultures who literally knew exactly what they were doing because they weren't just like an accidental, I don't know, like the pumpkin. Like they were intentionally bred for meat, for feathers, for bones. Yeah. They had for a...
Yeah, because turkeys are really pretty.
Yeah, and they definitely can, but they were bred for a very particular purpose, and every bit of that bird was used. And the domesticated turkeys didn't stay local for very long. When Spanish explorers arrived in the early 1500s, they brought turkeys back to Europe, and Europeans absolutely loved them, and they quickly became a luxury food pretty much immediately.
Oh, I forgot to mention that was too, like, the same thing happened with the pumpkin. When Europeans came, they brought it back, and pumpkins became really big in France.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, people grasp onto them. Well, whenever the Europeans took them back, okay, it spread, mostly because it was the Spanish that were over there. So they kind of stuck around Spain for a little bit. However, okay, so I never thought about the turkey and why, like the name of it and why it makes absolutely no sense because they're from here. So I always just assumed that maybe there was some, I don't know, other meaning behind the name rather than like, oh, it's also the name of a country.
I never thought about how it was the same as a country.
Yeah, so neither did I. I never made that connection. So when the Spanish brought them over, but then whenever the vast majority of Europeans, when they got really popular, as far as like the domesticated turkeys, they came through the trade routes run by the Ottoman merchants. Oh. So they assumed that the birds came from the country of Turkey, so they called them a turkey fowl, which eventually became turkey. Yep.
Instead of the guinea fowl.
Yes, exactly. Again, all before all this naming chaos, I said about how they used it for the meat, the bones, the feathers, all of that. Again, they used it for food, of course, because why wouldn't you? Clothing, ceremonial garments, rituals and offering, and there's even art. And I tried to look up some stuff because they were like, oh yeah, there's even some art depicting. I'm like, I want to see this freaking art depicting turkeys because they are pretty smart, a lot smarter than people give them credit for.
They look so dumb. And so I was like, I would love to see some of that ancient artwork because they do look so dumb. So you definitely see turkeys appear through Maya, Aztec, and Peruvian, I think is how you say it, and other indigenous artistic traditions, depending on the culture. This was another thing. I was like, what? To them, turkeys symbolize fertility, abundance, nurturing behavior, and sometimes even like trickster quality. I was like, fertility? Ah, yes, fertility. The turkey. Yeah, that's not what I lay a lot of eggs.
Yeah, but that was
But
just
like, there's a lot of other animals that I would think about as being more fertile.
no, right?
I guess something with eggs and tricksters. Yep. Turkeys are kind of. I wouldn't trust a turkey.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't trust a turkey either.
I wouldn't trust a turkey.
Right. So the famous big Thanksgiving, right? In 1621, the quote unquote first Thanksgiving. So this is that meal. We're talking about the meal.
This is our segue into the dead part.
Yeah, this can just be the segue into the death. So there is no historical record that a turkey was actually served.
Well, that's because apparently, like what I was reading too, because yours, it came like when I'm looking up mine, turkeys came up with pumpkins. You know what I mean? So they were saying that. I mean, obviously, where it came from is down south. Mm-hmm. First Thanksgiving is up in New England. They did eventually get turkeys up there.
Well, the turkeys were in North America. The turkeys were in North America. Some wandered down. They domesticated it in Central America more. But yes, so it definitely was everywhere in North America too. Yeah. But it's like
not the domesticated version.
Correct. And I think so they were still wild.
I think I was reading that at the first Thanksgiving, like it's possible that they could have gotten traded turkeys. But
yeah, they said maybe, but they were saying the deer. No, what was definitely recorded was the deer by the Wampanoag tribe, waterfowl, various waterfowl, maybe some wild turkey, but it's never been mentioned, never recorded, nothing. Yeah. So we all know that Benjamin Franklin had a turkey obsession because I feel like you have to bring him up because people will say, oh, the symbol of America is a bald eagle, but Benjamin Franklin didn't want it. Benjamin Franklin
apparently
never actually tried to do that.
Yeah, because apparently, like, we've all heard that Benjamin Franklin was like, well, it should be the turkey, but apparently that's debunked. He just said it should be anything other than the eagle.
Other than the bald eagle,
yeah.
And in the same breath, though, he also really liked turkeys. Yeah. So he was, like, very outspoken that he liked turkeys, apparently, because he thought that they were intelligent, industrious, which is quite a word to describe a turkey. And he did say, whenever he was questioned at one point, that they were a much more respectable bird than the bald eagle. Yeah. And because of the bald eagle and how they're scavengers and everything, he said that bald eagles had bad moral character, which is also hilarious.
Yeah. That's so anthropomorphic.
No,
bad
right?
moral character for that bird.
Yeah, geez. So even though the turkeys weren't in the first Thanksgiving, by the 1800s, turkeys were definitely everywhere in North America. They were abundant, local, and perfect for fall meals because November is a great time to hunt them. Yep. And so that's what actually started turkeys being harvested at the feast for Thanksgiving. Not because of symbolism, but because in fall, they were easy to find. They didn't migrate. They were still a bird. Easy to find. They fed a big family because of how big they were. In pretty much every community, you could had them, like nearby in the woods and
stuff.
That's
what I was wondering. I was like, why was it turkey and not chicken? But I guess because of the size.
Yeah, and the size of it. Yeah, you could feed.
You could just go out and shoot any kind of turkey. You can't just go out and shoot a chicken.
Yeah.
I mean, you could.
I mean, you could. But. Yeah. So whenever Sarah Joseph Hale, the writer, editor, and all around just, I don't know what she actually did, but she spent decades lobbying for Thanksgiving to become a national holiday. And in her writings is where we first can see the consistency described with Thanksgiving with a specific menu that included turkey stuffing, cranberry sauce, and apple pie. So whenever Abraham Lincoln declared Thanksgiving a national holiday in 1863, Hale's menu basically became the menu for Thanksgiving. And so that's how we had it. Okay, so the last thing I'll say about them, because I also did not know this. So because they became so popular and because they could feed so many people, they actually, by the early 1900s, the wild turkey was almost extinct.
Which is nuts to think about.
Yeah, I had no idea. So they were down to roughly 30,000 birds across the entire United States, which is so small considering that how abundant they are now. Yeah. And so obviously two big things caused the crash, the overhunting and then the massive habitat loss that started to happen during that time. And so that's whenever wildlife agencies, biologists, and hunters pulled together, was like, okay, we need to fix this. And they started launching coordinated efforts to protect their habitats, hunting regulations, which they did the same with deer. And then that's what led to the quote unquote, what I found in many sources called it as the modern day turkey boom. Which I was like,
modern day turkey boom. Well, and I guess it's also not including, like, you know, those are wild turkeys that you can go out and hunt. That's not like the domesticated industry that we have today either.
Correct. Yeah, correct. So today, wild turkeys number over 7 million across 49 states. They're in every state except for Alaska. And they're considered one of the most successful wildlife recoveries in U.S. history because it was just so crazy successful. And again, this does matter because they are a substance for good food. They are good seed dispersers, and they take care of a lot of freaking ticks.
Yeah, 7 million birds is a lot of
no, right? For cleaning up ticks.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
We actually, I'm always surprised at the wildlife in Rockville where I work. And we just saw, like, this year for the first time, I saw 2 female turkeys just running through the graveyard. Like, that's right next to the nature center, just taking off. It's like, there's turkeys here. This is like the suburbs. It's not somewhere you usually think of seeing turkeys.
Yeah, I'll say, through the graveyard.
And I saw one on my way south on 270, which is like a 6-lane highway, just a biff turkey. One flew over my car. And I was like, holy, because they're huge. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they're not that high off the ground. They're like just enough to clear a semi. You know, like.
Jeez. Poor turkeys.
Well, as you had said, the original Thanksgiving menu said apple pie, but it should have been pumpkin pie. And it really was pumpkin pie and Thanksgiving have been together for a very long time. But going back even further, as with many indigenous foods, original uses and recipes were overlooked or forgotten for a really long time. Like when Europeans came, they were like, okay, whatever, you know, eat your pumpkins. Like,
you poor people.
Yeah. But pumpkins have been a staple in colonial and American food since Europeans first came here and started writing recipes in 1670. So since 1670, we have had pumpkin recipes. Of course, they were there before then because of indigenous peoples. We just didn't care about them.
Yeah.
The most popular dish for pumpkins today is pumpkin pie. So how did pumpkin pie become a thing?
Is it still pumpkin pie or is it pumpkin spice latte and we've just not considered it a dish?
Great point. I will bring that up at the end.
Okay.
So the OG sweet pumpkin recipe sounds actually kind of awesome. I almost want to try it. So first you scoop out a pumpkin. Like you just take an entire pumpkin, you scoop it out, fill it with ginger spiced milk, sometimes apple, add honey, and cook it by the fire. You just put the pumpkin in the fire and it just basically turns into custard. Like
that I can get behind. Yeah.
Eventually, this evolved. So that was like the OG pumpkin custard pie thing.
Yeah.
There was really no pie until later. Eventually, pastries came into the picture and was published in the very first American cookbook. So there was not an American cookbook written by an American until 1796.
Which is crazy.
Right. Yeah, that's a really long time. But in there was pumpkin pie with pastry.
That's funny.
It started to become trendy in the 1800s when it went from being just like it wasn't really sweet before. It was spiced. But then it started becoming more of like a sweet treat and like more of an indulgent pastry thing.
Yeah.
And that's when it started to become trendy. And a huge change came in the early 1900s when canned pumpkin became available. This was a game changer.
That makes sense.
Nobody wants to have to prepare pumpkin from scratch. You know?
Yeah.
And so, like, the canning industry changed everything. And then everybody could make pumpkin pie. Nobody is making pumpkin pie these days without using canned pumpkin. I mean, I would love to know somebody who is because that sounds cool, but I don't know anyone.
Let me go out and just cut off my, pumpkin from the vine.
Yeah, and just, blend it up. And around the same time as canning became a thing, commercial bakeries also started to become large and could pump out huge quantities of pies, cakes, breads, etc. So people weren't even making their own very much at that point. Before then, people were making the pumpkin pie at home for the holidays, but then they started just buying them. And then frozen pumpkin pies came about in the 1960s when freezer stuff took off.
In the home, and it became like a common,
and then you just get like a
place,
frozen pie. This is what I usually do for Justin because he likes them. So I just get a frozen one and cut it up. But other popular pumpkin foods do include pumpkin bread, which is my favorite, pumpkin muffins, pumpkin muffins, also love, pumpkin cookies, pumpkin soup, and pumpkin seeds. They did like a poll of every state in America, and most of it was pumpkin pie and pumpkin bread. Only one state was pumpkin seeds. I was like, oh, you poor. That's the best you can do with pumpkin? I mean, I like pumpkin seeds, but geez.
Jeez, yeah.
The only thing absolutely no for me is pumpkin soup. That sounds disgusting.
No.
Pumpkin.
I don't like pumpkin normally, and having it warm like that would just...
I one time had, and like, I'm sure it's great for some people. So one time for Thanksgiving, we went to a fancy restaurant, and my brother and I don't know, we were probably like middle schoolers. We were so upset because it was like, they just had to ruin Thanksgiving for us because instead of mashed potatoes, like sweet potatoes, that's
always a game changer.
Squash soup, which I thought tasted like actual vomit. It was just like one thing after another. There was like nuts and things, and we were like, "This is garbage. I just want my plain white, like you know." But so you had brought up the pumpkin spice latte. So pumpkin pie spice was originally just a blend of spices that included cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, allspice. Those 4.
Okay.
A couple added in a few more. That was developed in the 1930s for convenience of cooking in general, so that people could use that canned pumpkin and then use their little jar of spices so they didn't have to buy individual. All those homemakers were buying that. Pumpkin spice and lattes did not happen until 2003 with Starbucks. I know. It seems like it's been around longer than that, but yeah, we were.
Yeah, even if it wasn't around in Starbucks, like it seemed like it I thought it was around.
Pumpkin,
That's
apparently,
crazy.
pumpkin spice. What did they? There's like an acronym for it and everything. Basically, it's a cultural icon. Nothing says fall.
I mean, now it is,
Of like pumpkin spice and literally everything, which almost never has pumpkin in it. Although Starbucks apparently did put pumpkin in their stuff for a while, which also gross. But the actual, like, the pumpkin spice stuff can be anything. It's just the spices, not the pumpkin.
Yeah, and see, I can't do that. I can't do, like, the smell. Like, I'm definitely more of, like, apple pie, the cinnamon apple smell. Like, all my candles for, like, quote-unquote Christmas candles and stuff are all the apple stuff. It's not the pumpkin. I
do like the flavor of pumpkin spice stuff, but I definitely think the superior flavor is apple. And then mint. So bring on the winter flavors because I want mint all the time.
Yes, right.
So last but not least, really any pumpkin foods or even drinks like pumpkin beer is a thing are more about the nostalgia than the flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It reminds us, like, I never thought about this, but you know, they're like, there's nothing as American as pumpkin pie. Because it reminds us of our roots and the good old days, it makes people think of being back on the farm and making pumpkin pie. There's like children's nursery rhymes with pumpkin pie in them from a long time ago. Like it is part of our cultural identity is pumpkin pie and anything else that comes with being American. So yes, people do the flavor, but really, it's the nostalgia. We just have to keep in mind not to be too wasteful about pumpkins because more than half of what is grown is thrown away.
That's believable.
Oh, totally, because of Halloween.
America's huge. Yeah, well, America is huge food wasters with everything.
Yeah. So between Halloween and Thanksgiving, use your pumpkins, enjoy your pumpkins, but try not to buy more than what you need and try and buy locally.
Yeah.
That is the history of both living and dead pumpkins.
Okay. Well, that's actually a perfect segue into my dead turkeys. So because I'm talking about like the nostalgia part of it, that's basically what it is with turkey as well. So I kind of gave an overview earlier about turkeys. They were big, they were everywhere, they were seasonal, easy to find, and unlike cows or chickens, you didn't need to keep a turkey alive for eggs or milk or anything. So eating one didn't disturb like the whole household economy and what one thing, how it relies on another, how it relies on another. So farmers, cooks, and anyone feeding a crowd, turkey just made sense because it was easy. You didn't need to keep them around. So it wasn't like a chicken where it's, yes, you need the egg. So it's, when do we kill this chicken? You know what I mean? Because if it's producing eggs, you're counting on that. Turkey doesn't really give you much. So they're like, it's for its meat.
Yeah.
Remember, I talked earlier about the turkeys that indigenous people domesticated in Mexico 1,000+ years ago. Those domesticated birds are ancestors of the modern domestic turkey, the one that's in our grocery stores now.
And comes in like a variety of different breeds and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And the domestic turkey was bred specifically to be larger, slower, less agile, and bred specifically for meat production. So unfortunately, because it's tastes great, but unfortunately, because the poor birds, like they're not wild turkeys even close anymore. Once Thanksgiving became a national holiday, and like I said, 1863, and Norman Rockwell paintings made the holiday meal look like a national duty. That's something like we had to do here in America. The demand for turkey rose very, very quickly. And by the 20th century, turkey production shifted to commercial farming. Standardizing the goal became more bigger birds, more breast meat, selective breeding, large-scale farming operations.
Which, more breast meat? No, thank you. Give me a dark meat
all day.
100%. Yes. Especially for turkey, 100%. Which is dry.
Yeah, it's so dry. And I know, but you can slap all the gravy you want on that thing, but it's still dry.
At its core, it's dry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just dry. Like, why do that whenever you can have the dark meat?
100%.
So then why this turkey then stuck becoming the main dish? It's tradition. Because of all those Norman Rockwell paintings, they're like, well, we got to have the turkey because that's the American thing to do.
It's also just like the novelty. Like, it's not chicken. We eat chicken all the time, right? Yeah. It's not this, it's like Christmas goose. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be something different.
Yeah, right. Well, and it's symbolic now. Besides the tradition, it's a symbol. They're like, oh, turkey, Thanksgiving. That's just what it is. And it is still practical. So whenever you get, relative to the amount of meat you get, it's still a pretty cheap meal whenever you're feeding a large number of people. Yeah. And marketing. So the poultry industry leaned heavily into Thanksgiving, and it worked to market, hey, everybody should go ahead and eat
lots of turkey.
Right? So on one side, we have the wild turkey, which they're fast, loud, clever, conservation success story. And on the other side, we have the domestic turkey, which is basically just the one that shows up in November and can keep the American tradition. How we see it is shaped by farming, culture, and a whole lot of basically strategic storytelling, marketing. Yeah. Yeah, right? So again, like anything with food traditions, especially here in America, it's definitely a mix of history, convenience, just the storytelling, and whatever is the quote-unquote way it's always been done.
I do think it's kind of cool, though, that both are, which is another reason why we chose these two in particular. Yeah. But, like, they are American foods. Not even, their species is from here. We have domesticated them. They're a human product in all senses of the word. Like, you know, like, it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah. Isn't the hot dog from here, too? Like, not the hot dog itself.
I don't know.
Yeah, German immigrant. Yeah, from Coney Island.
It's got to be something with sausages. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Well, Germans. Yeah. I mean, who does sausage better? So, yeah, I mean, I was going to say, yeah, turkey and pumpkin pie. It's about as American as a hot dog. Yeah.
and that still stands.
Right. Yeah, all right. Still stands. Whew, fact checked. All right, guys. Well, help everybody in America here who's traveling. You guys have safe travels this week, and we're hopefully you guys listen to this on your drive or wherever you guys are flying or whatnot too.
Time.
Yep. All right, guys. Next week, Laura birthed a baby.
Yeah.
And then we had some technology issues last week, so that's why I didn't pump out a mini episode. So then next week, we'll actually start the mini episodes, and then we'll get back on track.
Okay.
So Laura's got to run because she has 2 babies now.
Those who want attention.
She's just juggling babies over there now.
Babies, podcast, you know, all the other things.
Whatever. All right, guys, go check us out on Patreon. Go see our social media channels, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Ever wonder why a bat might glow? Or how frogs made it to space long ago? Dinosaurs trained for delivery runs. We're asking the questions, the weird ones. Wildly curious, where science gets strange and kinda hilarious. From nature's wonders to ancient funk, it's facts and fun rolled into one big chunk. Wildly curious, weird is wonderful. Come join